Okay, internets, this is take 3. Darn thing just quit on me as it does now and again. Yes, I love being in an industrialized nation that is far beyond many other countries in terms of its internet infrastructure. Mm, we're number one. Anyways, so a New Hampshire lawmaker decided to just open up his big, fat, ignorant mouth and say something that was completely insensitive, completely demeaning, and completely ignorant on the issue of domestic violence and domestic abuse. And I'm going to go into why I dislike what this person said and why I do not take their what feels like just a tepid attempt at an apology. I don't accept this person's apology being somebody who is an unashamed survivor of female on male domestic abuse. I'm a 5-year veteran of that, and I'm glad I got out of there. But you want to talk about extreme cases. It took 2 attempts on my life, one of which was in front of our infant son, for me to finally say, okay, for my son's sake, I can't stay here. I can't do this anymore. I can't try to make her into something else. And see, there's a whole psychology behind it. But let me read the person's comment. Let me opine about it, because this isn't black and white as this guy tries to make it. New Hampshire state lawmaker by the name of Republican, surprise, surprise, Mark Warden said this yesterday. Some people could make the argument that a lot of people like being in abusive relationships. And unfortunately, the whole Chris Brown Rihanna thing does not help my side of things. But that's a whole nother bag of kittens right there. It's a love-hate relationship. It's very, very common for people to stick with someone they love who also abuses him or her. Is the solution of this kind of dysfunctional relationship going to be more government, another law? I'd say no. People are always free to leave. And that's a point of contention that can actually be somewhat supported. But again, I'm going to get into the rabbit hole of this entire thing here. But okay, so today Warden decides that he's going to apologize. It was never my intention to minimize the trauma of domestic abuse or in any way demean the victims. Well, you have a funny way of doing that, or not intending to do that. He said, adding that how the state gets involved in people's personal lives is a topic that requires thoughtful debate and should not be reduced to sound bites. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have made a sound bite, a rather ignorant one, all on your own. Ah, okay. Sometimes you have Stockholm Syndrome, okay? Where you can be getting raped, beaten on a daily basis, and yet you feel compassion for, you even convince yourself you feel love for the individual who you're with. That wasn't my situation. I'll get to my situation close to the end because my situation is slightly different, but I suspect I'm not alone in it. Sometimes you have people who see the good in the people. Like when times are good with these people, it's really good. And there can be a good person in some of these domestic abusive cunts and a-holes, for lack of a better term. But when it's bad, it's really bad. But at times you care. You were friends first. You didn't know their other exes, or maybe you're the one that the beast comes out with, whether male or female, because again, this is a bigger topic because you know what? Yeah, I could be free to leave, but where am I going to go? I don't have any domestic abuse shelters for men. And most that are there either get defunded because Congress and other in Parliament, they look at this issue and they say, well, why are we throwing money at this? Men can't be abused, men can't be raped, men can't be boys can't be molested. So what are we funding this men's shelter for? For people like me, you stupid, ignorant, sexist, gender role stereotype enforcing, pig-headed moron. Mm, mm. And sometimes, if it's female on male, if the male calls for the police and he's got bruises and she's barely marked because maybe he was fighting her off because, oh, I don't know, maybe she's trying to strangle him to death. Maybe she's trying to kill him or otherwise harm him, and he's trying to save his own life. Guess who's likely to go to jail? Yeah, if you said the man, you're exactly right. Very few times, if ever, will the law take a guy's story about domestic abuse over a woman's because we're not willing to believe that. I've known people who've lost careers who did not and would never, ever hit or hurt a woman. And yet it's on his record. He's considered an assailant for a woman who was the one who was doing the assailing. Oh, but no, no. Oh, he deserved it because, men are scum, right? We're the abusers. We're the only ones capable of abuse. We're the only ones capable of rape, right? Ay, 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 ay. But okay, so you can make the argument, though, that in most cases, men excluded, you can leave. That's not entirely beyond possibilities, but some of these cases, the family members, they've cut off the family members, and even though the family members care, it can become a sticky situation. It's like, wait, you chose him, who you know is beating you, or who we know is beating you, because you cry to us about him beating you until you cut us off, because then you decided to save your marriage, you were going to pick him or her over us. That makes for a very awkward situation. Sometimes the family says, you know what, you made your decision, you have to live with it. We're not helping you out. We're not giving you any sort of things. Or the family has, say, young kids, or situations where if they know that the assailant is going to come to that house, it's going to turn into a cluster mess, and they don't want to deal with that. And it's rightfully so. It's not exactly their problem in those situations there. Some people are financially dependent on their assailants. They have no job, they have no friends, they're not allowed to have friends, they're not allowed to have family members. They're basically in the house. Some of them even get locked in. Some of them have their internet modems removed. I've known people who've had that situation happen. It's technically illegal. And yes, a lot of these people get discovered, but some never do. And in those cases, you're extremely lucky if domestic abuse or violence is the only thing that you receive. A lot of times there's some rape that's involved in all this. But okay, so some people stay not because they have a love-hate, but because they really think that the person can change, and they want to try to change them, and they'll almost destroy themselves trying to change this person until they hopefully one day wake up. Some of them, it takes meeting somebody who is amazing, somebody who is worth realizing that the current situation you're in is a dead-end situation. And as far as states getting involved in people's personal lives, what about the parenting? What about the environments in the home lives that breed jealous, possessive men and women? Oh, no, no, we can't. You have, right now, we're basically saying you have every right to raise, breed, and teach your boys and girls to become jealous, possessive a-holes and cunts. That whatever they do to keep their claws on their woman, because you can't trust the gays because, they're gay, but you can't trust the heteros because the heteros are always trying to get after your man or your woman. So you can't trust anybody because anything with a sexual libido is a threat to your wife. Even if they're asexual, they're a threat to your possession of your wife or your husband, because they're not people, they're possessions to you. They're something that's so ingrained. But okay, my situation. Let me get into my situation, because again, this is an important situation that needs to be discussed. For one thing, the leaving thing. In my case, my girl was built like a tank. No, I'm not kidding you. There was no getting away. She wants to hurt you, she gets to hurt you. If she wants to sit on you and wail away at you, she can do that. And me, being, He-Man and all, I couldn't be able to stop her. If she came at me, there was nothing I could do. There was nowhere I could go, because it was spontaneous. It was like walking on eggshells all the time. There was always tension in the house because I didn't know what was going to set her off. But you know what? With me, it wasn't like this, oh, I can change this person. It wasn't this Stockholm syndrome. When I really stop and look at my life and look at my situation, I was not out of the woods of my bad self-esteem. I was not out of the woods of my self-loathing. The reason she came to live with me should have been the biggest red flag ever, and if anything, it excited a part of me, because whether I wanted to admit it to myself at the time or not, if I couldn't hurt myself anymore because that would get me in the hospital, I was going to find somebody who would. And you know the kicker of this situation? I had a child with this person. If I had decided to do the whole stay together for the kids thing, she probably would have succeeded in killing me. And my son would grow up without his father and having witnessed mommy killing daddy. I cannot even begin to fathom the kind of pain and mental anguish that would put my son through, not to mention everything else that would come with that sort of situation there. She tried it twice. Once that was right in front of our infant son. That's when I said enough was enough. Then when I got away from her, when I got away from the situation, when I got away from all the psychological noise and everything else and looked inside, I realized she was a scorpion. I knew she was a scorpion. In a way, I cannot fault her for stinging me. I can fault me, though, for staying for so long, because she gave me exactly what a part of me wanted. It wanted me to be hurt. She hurt me physically, she hurt me mentally, she hurt me emotionally. She tried to destroy me on some levels, and yet she loved me so much. She felt like I made her feel like a princess. I made her feel like home. I did everything that a guy usually should do for somebody who's worth it, except she wasn't worth it. And I'm sure on some level I loved her, but I picked her particularly because I knew what she was going to do. And I'm willing to bet you real money that I'm not alone in this. That if some of you look out there, that some of you chose the person that you were going to get with because you had the exact same problems that I had to deal with. But then again, my situation isn't the only one, and it's not the only reason. And it's almost like he's trying to say that, oh, all these S&M relationships mean that people want to be abused. No! S&M, BDSM, S&M, BDSM, and all that sort of sex play, that is not people wanting to be abused. That's a stupid, ignorant way to look at things, and it's a way to justify offhandedly waving domestic abuse of women, but especially of men by women, or men by other men, and all these other situations that we just don't want to look at because we can't fathom anything beyond gender stereotypes, and it's hurting everybody, not just women. So I'm sorry, Warden. I do not accept your apology. I don't believe that you're really all that sorry. I believe, as has been demonstrated time and time again, that you and your like-minded folk truly believe this stuff, or you wouldn't have opened up your dumb pig mouth about it. So no, like I said, I'm sorry. I cannot accept your apology.